In short, defeating one of the major outfits, namely England, Australia, or the West Indies, on foreign soil now became the next necessity in the march of Indian cricket. Indeed, the Indians up to this point had never beaten the West Indians even at home, let alone in the Caribbean. But all this was to change in March 1971 when India imprinted the first of two sensational successes here at the Queen's Park Oval, Port of Spain.
We knew that Port of Spain was going to be a little bit slow wicket, and then perhaps landscapes, if he was to play against us, would really matter quite a lot to us. And that's the reason when the first match which we played against President's 11, we saw to that that one of their off spinners called Wadekar, who was pretty old, he's on the verge of retirement, and at the age of 35, though he was bowling well, so he wouldn't have definitely caused us much of harm. So we saw to that he would get more wickets, so selectors would find it very embarrassing to drop him from the side. And exactly the same thing happened. They had no choice but to select him in the team. And had it been landscapes perhaps on that wicket, at Port of Spain, it would have really mattered us. Perhaps he would have really run through our side. But when we landed in Port of Spain, I had a look at the wicket and I thought that this is the chance to win. And the wicket was nicely rolled up, but it looked a little bit funny. And I was hoping that I would lose a toss. And luckily I lost the toss and the Sobers had no choice but to elect to bat. And had it been, if I was in his position, then perhaps I also would have elected to bat. It was very difficult to predict one. And the first ball, Abid Ali bowled, was a shooter, and it went to Roy Frederick's defense and knocked his stumps out. And that's where they got really shocked. And then, of course, they went on to score 200 and odd runs, nearly 260 or something.
Trinidad wicket is always a wicket that takes spin, and India have always produced great spinners. And in that particular test, we didn't win the toss and batted. India won the toss and sent us into bat, which is a regular occurrence in the West Indies, in particular in Trinidad, because the wicket on the first day always have a bit of moisture and it does a lot of funny things. And then it settled down the second day and the third day, and then it starts to play tricks again later on in the match. And India won the toss, which is always a good toss to win, sent us into bat, and they bowled us out fairly cheaply, and then went in and replied with a reasonably good score. And from the time they made that score, then West Indies was up against it because of the Indian spinners. I think that was one of Charlie's early matches. And Charlie has always been, in my mind, one of the players in the West Indies who have always been a kind of dogmatic player, a player who came in and would stay there. He wasn't a very attractive player to watch when he got going. He played a lot of attractive shots, but he was a type of player who you could depend on. He was a dependable player. Roy Fredericks was different. Roy Fredericks was the kind of aggressive player, attractive, and played shots. And they played very well during that test match. But one can never forget the youngster that came from India playing his first series in the West Indies, Sunil Gavaskar. I think that he took the limelight of all the West Indies people, and he proved successful throughout that whole series. He made a tremendous amount of runs and then went from strength to strength. We had Nariko, who I believe got 9 wickets in that particular match, and that only shows that if he could have done that with the Indian spin attack, Bishan, Biddy, I think Venkat was there too, and they were experienced bowlers, and therefore they used the conditions far better than we did.
In the second inning, when they came on to bat, the ball started turning, and with the rough created by the West Indies fast bowlers, I thought that I would take advantage of that, and that's the reason I brought in Salim Durrani just for a couple of overs. I thought perhaps he may be able to take the advantage of that. Bishan Singh was bowling very well, but perhaps with his kind of action, it was a bit difficult for him to take the advantage of those bowlers rough. And when Lloyd was batting, I switched myself from slip to switch to mid-wicket, short mid-wicket, and the moment Salim I brought in, he just offered me a catch. Of course, that was a hard one, but it came straight to me. And the second ball, Gary Sober's fist was bowled completely, I think, and the ball turned from the rough. And those 2 wickets really knocked them out. They lost all this determination to get as many runs as possible. And we had hardly 124 runs to score in the second inning, which we caught easily. Of course, Dilip Sardesai batted extremely well. Then our Sunil Gavaskar, who missed the first test match because of the injury, he on his debut itself, he scored 68 odd runs in both the innings and brilliantly batted. And that's where the star was born.
I have never really done very well in Trinidad during my cricketing career. I think over the years that I have played cricket for the West Indies, I have scored only 1 Test 100 in Trinidad. Trinidad seems to be my bogey ground, as all cricketers have those kind of wickets, those kind of grounds where it doesn't matter how hard they try, they never seem to be successful. And Salim Durrani, who I'd forgotten, a very good cricketer, I think was very underrated as far as the Indians were concerned. I thought he was a very good all-rounder, and he batted and bowled extremely well, but I didn't think that he got the kind of praise that he should have got. I think people look at the other spinners, but I think he did very well, and he was one of the main instigators in winning that particular match for India.
So Wadekar and Gary Sobers not agreeing on who won the toss in that test match, but Charlie Davis easily the pick of the West Indian batsman. And the pick of the Indian bowlers, Erapalli Prasanna. And a brilliant knock there from Dilip Sardesai, again in a difficult situation. Good support from Solka. A sensational haul there for Jack Noriga. Davis again one of the heroes, but the top scorer in the second innings, Roy Fredericks with 80. Good knock there. Venkatraghavan 5, 2 crucial wickets to Durrani. And easy going for India in the 4th venture with Sunil Gavaskar the star with 67 not out. India winning by 7 wickets. And for academic interest, Barrett 3 wickets. Within months of that historic breakthrough, which some described as a flash in the pan,